if the adult does decide, hey, your child, I've been trying, but I'm not going to let you break this up. Excuse me. Would that child feel like the parent chose their new partner over them?
Sure, sure. Especially if
So,
you say that.
so again, did you see the movie Baby Boy?
Mm-hmm,
And remember Tyrese's character?
mm-hmm,
And he was like, "You gonna choose Melvin over me?"
mm-hmm.
You know,
Mama gotta
that's
have a life too.
yeah. So showing our age, but anyway. So I mean, that you wind up in those situations. Is that healthy, or how do you healthily navigate that? Is taking her approach like, "Hey, mom's an adult. You like, hey,
Well,
mom gotta."
Jody was grown. Number one,
Yeah.
Jody was grown with children,
Yeah.
so Jody got to work on her.
Man, we gotta come together, but we still fight. I see the future for the kids, but it ain't looking right. So we gotta rise up, stand up for one another. I'm talking to the black mothers and brothers. The world's going crazy cause these kids ain't got no guidance. Mama tell them no, but that man just keeps on trying. The fathers choose to lead to the kids, he always lying. Now mama all alone, raising kids on her own, and the system is against us, so we gotta be strong.
All right. Well, welcome back to the Held Accountable podcast. I know in our last episode you met Miss Courtney Ledette, our licensed professional counselor and therapist, and we were having such a good conversation that we decided to
Keep it going.
Yeah, just keep the conversation going. So, and last we were talking about dealing with kind of the emotional parts of and parts of the split up, whether it's divorce or whether you were never married.
Right.
You're now a single parent.
Right.
And how do you deal with that? How do you deal with the other parent? What's to build a healthy co-parent relationship? But then we started talking about the kids and how the kids are affected, and me and you started getting into some things. It's just
Yeah.
like, oh, I didn't
Think of that.
I didn't think of that. So instead of waiting another couple weeks, let's just go ahead and keep having the conversation. So just to jump back in to where we were, I'll ask you when dealing, so they can know when dealing in a divorce, or children are of age to ask the question. Should parents have individual conversations with their kids about what's going on, or joint conversation, or both?
It depends, right? Like, so it's again intimate to the kind of the relationship of the co-parents, the relationship of the parent with the children, because you don't want varying stories either. So it's important to be cohesive on what's communicated about and what won't be communicated about. But I think it also really just depends on the co-parenting, and even if you're not getting along, I think that you could still have like an effective conversation with your children because you're thinking about your children, right? And
So
the nature
the
of them.
divorce, I guess, is kind of one of those things that's just standard. That hey, you sit the kids down. I know when my parents got divorced, they sat us down, and the whole, oh, we still love you. This has nothing to do with you. But is that conversation? Well, I would think it's necessary.
Yeah.
Especially,
Yeah.
and at what age do you do that? I mean, is there any particular age, or? So I'm trying to think the mental and emotional bandwidth of a 5-year-old versus, I think that's how old I was when my parents got
Yeah.
divorced.
Okay.
Um,
I think it's so we don't give enough credit to children and their emotional intelligence. It is different, right, than an adult. I can't say certain things to a 5-year-old that I could just blatantly say to an adult. So it's how you say it. So children can understand a lot of different things if you get to their level of communicating it to them. So like, of course, like 2-year-old, 3-year-old, like sure they don't they know that something looks different. I don't know what looks different, but I'm gonna play with these toys anyway, kind of thing. They're not necessarily. I think that once they start kind of really having the ability to ask questions, that could be kind of like an indicator on age, right? Like so, a 2-year-old, 3-year-old. I'm just saying, just kind of like the difference, right? Like so, a 2-year-old, 3-year-old might just say, "Mommy, Daddy," kind of thing, and not be able to formulate the conversation, right? Because they don't. Whereas a 5-year-old could be like, I want to see mommy, I want to see daddy. Where are they?
Yeah.
Where's mommy? Where's daddy? And really look for an answer. They're at the store. They're at work. They're at and then that usually suffices what they need. So like when they're able to sit and have a back and forth banter, I think could possibly be like a measurement of like when to have the conversation.
Okay. And that leads into how much do you actually tell them?
That's also intimate to the relationship, right?
Yeah.
So I wouldn't recommend telling you, we was fighting all the time and we just had to let it go. Not necessarily that, but I think that it's more so that the relationship is ending and this is what it looks like. Right. So I don't think that it's necessarily important to go into detail because no child, that would taint how I see my parent if I'm hearing from one parent or both parents. We was just arguing every day and we couldn't do it. Like they still have to process my parents argue. Like when, like people argue, but then for a 13-year-old, 14-year-old, it's kind of like we don't want to see our parents in that space. If we hadn't seen it before. If it's not something that they were used to before. So you want to just kind of keep it kind of general, like this is what's happening and this is what life will look like moving forward. They don't need to know like the nitty gritty. Your dad used to go out all the time. Your mama spent all my money. We don't, that's not necessary. But I think that it's kind of like we've decided to end things. We love you, da-da-da-da. This is what will happen moving forward. Because they really want to understand, like, well, what is life like now? Like, what do I do now? Kind of thing.
So I think it's different when, and that is great advice. It gets a little more complicated when you were never married at all. So and that's where my kids, we were engaged.
Okay.
But
living together.
Yeah, we were living together for a while. With our second child, it was had one child. It's I hate you, you hate me. Yeah, we not gonna. Yeah, you go over there, I'm going. But we'll raise a child together. Then got back together, trying to work things out for our child. Got engaged, had a second child, and then it didn't work. Okay. And so now the oldest has been asking all the time, throughout those years, hey, what's going on? What happened? We were together at one point, then we were all a family at one point, then we weren't. What's the deal? And it's, hey, and I'll be honest, and it wasn't until talking to you, I didn't realize that was the wrong thing. I've just been like, well, look, it's grown folks' business. Like, you wouldn't understand it. And she said, well, I mean, what's grown about it? Why can't I know? It's none of your business. When you turn 18 or 21, then maybe I'll tell you. But right now, that's grown folks' business. Stay out of it. Stay out of your lane. But now the younger, and he's elementary school, and now he's asking, wait, were y'all ever married? What happened? Why do we have separate houses? And so the oldest has already been down that road. She's just like, oh yeah, dad's not going to answer. So
it's grown folk business.
So now I'm telling the young one, look, I'll tell you the same thing I told your older sister. It's none of your business.
Stay out grown folk business.
Yes. So but you were telling me I'm robbing them of something that they need. And I don't know, for other parents who are in that situation, I guess I think they need to hear from you, like why maybe that's not the best thing to do.
Yeah, because it's not going to stop their curiosity about it. And again, you don't want to taint your relationship with your children, right? So like, I mean, especially in the Black community, we know kids don't ask, grown folks, they business, and you stay in a child's place, and we really don't give credit to children and how they are now, especially children are in the space, this is their formative years. So this is how I understand how to navigate relationships, what's good, what's bad. This is how I understand even how to speak up for myself and advocate for myself as an adult, what love looks like, what anger looks like, all the things, right? So if I'm hushed or, told not to ask certain questions, then that kind of follows, so it's kind of like, well, I'm not going to ask this because, I shouldn't ask this, or whatever whatever the case may
Yeah.
be. But yeah, it allows them to kind of understand and really create vulnerability with their parent. I know that I can ask my parent anything, and I won't be like, I shouldn't ask that. I always tell the story just a little bit, like my mom was very open with communicating with me and my brother, but more so me because I had all the questions. I'm going to ask, and I'm going to, she had to tell me one time, like, let's save the questions for when we get home, because I'm going to ask it anywhere. I'm be like, oh, they said that. What does that mean? What is it? And she would explain it to me in a way that I could understand. So then when I got older, I know I could go ask my mom questions because she going to tell me, So I think that generally it really does create vulnerability and openness with your child, number one, but it also teaches them lessons in terms of relationships and love and expression and things like that. And they just need to know what's going on with mommy and daddy. Like, I have 2 houses now. I went to sleep one house and woke up, got 2 houses. What's up? What happened?
Yeah. Well, that's definitely what I'm still thinking on, because I'm sorry. I was I grew up in the 80s, 90s. It was, I'm from that school. We're like, yeah. You stay out of grown folks' business.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
but I get what you're saying about respecting their, what was it you called it? Their emotional something.
Emotional intelligence.
Emotional
or curiosity.
intelligence. Yeah, their emotional intelligence.
Yeah, just their ability, because they have all the feelings that we have.
Yeah.
If we get confused, they get confused. We get angry, they get angry. Like every emotion that an adult has, a child has. So it's really important that the parent nurture those emotions first before they learn outside.
Okay. So by me not answering the question, trying to protect. So my thing is more, it's not just I say stay out of grown folks' business, but it's more of a trying to protect them from, because let's be real, like when adults split up, it could get pretty ugly, it could get pretty nasty, and so there are some things I don't think that they should be forced to try to comprehend or make a decision or have an opinion about, right? So,
but you not telling them why doesn't take that away from them. They could still formulate opinions. It would just be with misinformation.
True. Okay.
Because they're going to see, like, oh, you want to hold them from, seeing or viewing or knowing certain things. They're going to still know. They're just going to put the pieces together themselves.
Yeah.
And so then they formulate an opinion and thoughts and ideas with the pieces that they got in a child's mind.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I get what you're saying. Yeah. All right. So, other thing, in that same kind of spirit of conversation, for I guess a child's psychological well-being, what do you think is some of the most important things to focus on as a new single parent? For example, like establishing rules for the house, the continuity between mom's house versus dad's house. And and of course, what we already discussed, understanding why the breakup happened in the first place. But is there something that's more important than the other, like the boundaries and because some people try to force my house to be the same as mom's house or dad's house, and and kids are quick to, I do this at mommy's house. So I don't know if there was something you thought professionally you should focus on more than other, or is it just kind of depends on your situation?
Again, it depends on your situation. It's intimate to the situation, but especially like children really thrive on structure, right? Like an understanding what is happening and what to do. So, I mean, even if there are different things, children adapt very well too. You don't want to like just turn their world topsy-turvy, which it kind of is essentially a little bit when parents decide to split up. It's like their world now looks new. So because their world looks new, they need to find comfort in something. So it's like providing them comfort in something. So if their favorite color is blue or pink or yellow or whatever, like they might have a comforter at mommy's house that's yellow, and they're going to have a comforter at daddy's house that's yellow. They need to have some kind of constant, right? Because their world is different now. So it might be that if some things might look similar, right? Like, so if you eat dinner at the table at daddy's house, let's see, we could eat dinner at the table at mommy's house. Now, it's different because, like, you're leaving it up to the parents. So, like, mommy might not have the ability to sit down and eat dinner because of whatever the case may be. But, like, is there something that you can find a constant? Is there something that you can find comfort? Because I was comfortable when we were all together, and now it's different. So I'm adjusting to this difference. But they do need, like, of course, boundaries are always important. Structure is always important. Rules, so they know what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad. And sometimes that can mirror each house, but not all the time do you get that ability.
So what about for children who never were in the same household? Yeah, which that's more and more, common nowadays. So is it different from them? Do they need to have that constant at both houses, or is it, since it was always different, it doesn't matter?
It looks a little bit different because it was they grew up. So from birth, it's like this is how they learned. So nothing necessarily switched for them. But it's good to have a constant. It's good to have comfort. But there's no transition period. This is what they know. But both households need to have some kind of comfort and structure so that they can adapt well. And if those two houses can mirror each other, that would be great. But, not all the time is that available. But it kind of looks differently for them because, like, this is life. Mom's house is here, dad's house is here. I do this at mom's, this is, But I think checking in, especially with those children, all children, just to make sure that they're okay. Because they might want yellow comforters at each house, like, even though they didn't grow up that way, they might want something,
Is it, and speaking of that growing up, how necessary is it to try and provide them as close to a family atmosphere? Is it going to affect them in the long term? For example, we were talking about feeling like a failure, in which a lot of parents do when that type of separation happens, divorce, whatever, or they were ever to get married at all. Some parents, including myself, feel like we have failed our children to provide them this, stereotypical, white picket fence dog, 2.5 kids, you know what I'm saying? And so, but while that may be the stereotype or whatever, it's also, I think it sticks with us because you never really learn what a stable home is like. So when you go, like, I came from a broken home. My parents came from a broken home. Now my kids are a broken home. So, some people say it's like a generational curse or whatever, but I think it's, and this is me not being a professional, but it's just, you're doing what you know. Like, did I really ever have a chance to know what a stable home looked like and therefore keep a stable home? You know what I'm saying? So am I dooming my children to not understand what a stable home is, to get used to this? Like you said, it's how they grew up. That's their norm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm just asking, is that something that...
Yeah. I think that, like, definitely, like, an experience can definitely be a lesson in learning how to do something, right? Like, so it's like, if I wasn't exposed to it, then it would be hard to kind of dissect and understand, but it doesn't take away ability to, right? So it's like, I didn't grow up in a stable home doesn't mean, or a 2-parent home, stable home, that kind of thing, doesn't mean that I have the inability to provide. It just means that my journey to do that just looks different because I now have to, like, research and search and understand what that is, versus someone who grew up in a 2-parent stable home. It's kind of like, it might come a little bit easier in terms of knowing what it looks like and feels like to kind of connect with it. So you still have the ability to, moving forward, just how you go about it just looks different because you have to see what it actually looks like. And understand what that looks like for you, versus somebody who did. It's like, oh, this is just what it is, and this is what I'm gonna do. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Okay. And in that same spirit of trying to get to a stable home, like you said, it does mean he's been. So, all right, this relationship didn't work out. Kids are now in a broken home. A lot of parents, I think, overcompensate and try to mend that, or get that back for them. How do you deal with the children and them accepting, hey, mommy and daddy aren't together anymore, but now mommy's with Jody, or now daddy's with whoever. It's how did and then the kids are in the middle of that, because at some point, like, I've been dating someone for quite a while and she hasn't met my kids yet. And that's but that's me being an overprotective parent, I guess. But it's I don't know if they're even ready for that. How do you know when your kids are ready, or is there even a ready point? Is it more about when the adult is ready?
I think both, right? Like, I don't know if children, I don't know, it just depends, right? Like, the length of time, some children might never be ready to see their parent date somebody else, right? Like, but it just kind of depends. I think a lot of things boil down to communication, right? So you don't want to just shock your children like, you know what, I've been dating this person for 3 years and we've been talking about meeting the kids, and I kept my kids, I sheltered my kids away from it. I think today or this week is the best time for them to meet my kids. But who is this woman? What you mean? Who this man? Like, what are we doing here? Like, that's going to be a shock to your children, especially if they had no connection to mommy and daddy dating other people. So, like, what are you communicating with your children about? Like, I do want to get married. I do want to meet somebody. How do you feel about that? Ask them.
I don't even talk to them about it. I going back
so you
to
just
that.
Gonna show up with the woman.
Stay out of grown folk business. No, and it's a part of it, and it's also it's not just defending them, it's defending me as well. It's defending everybody, because kids can't hold water.
No.
So, and if you're in a adversarial co-parent relationship, that invites more. Oh, we met daddy's new friend. Yada yada. Now it's who's this chick you bringing around my kids? I ain't got time for that.
But are you talking to the co-parent about it? Because I would question too. I have a child, and now my child's father is just bringing this woman I don't know, never met, never even heard of around my child. They don't know, never met, never heard of, and y'all went to go get ice cream? What? No.
Okay, so hold on. First, at what point do you? I mean, we're all adults. At some point, we have to trust the other adult's judgment.
Not if we're in adversarial co-parenting.
So just because we're in adversarial co-parenting, now I got to run everything by you? Is that?
You should run things by me with pertaining to the children.
I don't know.
And that's pertaining to the children.
Yeah.
I don't need to know your ins. I don't need to know if y'all went to Hawaii and you just bought her this expensive birthday gift and y'all planning to get getaways every weekend. I don't need to know that, but I need to know, is she stable? Does she have children? Is this are you seeing this as a long-term relationship? Are y'all planning to move together? It's like, what are your plans that involve my children?
Okay. So at what point does that even need to be a discussion? Like, because you mentioned, is this a long term? So, like, as soon as you go on the first date, that's what you're saying? Or
the thought of dating, right? The idea of dating could be discussed, because for many people in their mind, it's just me, my children, and their father or their mother. And that's the dynamic. And we're co-parenting. And that's the dynamic. When you bring in somebody else, that changes the dynamic. Now it's me, my children, my children's parent, and their new partner. Right? So now it's a whole, and then how involved is this new partner? Do I know if this woman is going to discipline my children? How do they discipline children? Right? Like, do they believe in corporal punishment? I've never whipped my children, but she like, oh,
so I mean, okay,
I spanked my kids,
yeah. So I think those, of course those are, because I'm gonna have a problem with you bring some man in there and my daughter's coming home, Jody whooped me. Jody did who? Who's Jody? Like, so but I guess what I'm saying is, at what point is it even worth mentioning to the kids or bringing around the kids? Is it something, hey, we're doing this long term, or we've been dating 6 months, 12 months? Is it any time limit, or is it more based? What are the qualifications to, all right, I need to talk to the other parent and to my children and start bringing them around?
Bringing them around the individuals that you're dating.
Correct.
Okay. So I think like once the idea of parent dating. So like if I'm the child and my dad is dating, right? Like I don't want to be shocked with this woman, right? But I can know that my dad, dates or, things of that nature. Also, depending on your child's emotional maturity, y'all's conversation, y'all's communication about things, right? Because in one breath, in 1 month, I can't hear stay out of grown folks' business. And then the next month, this is my friend Sharon. We've been dating for 2 years. I really like her. I love her. These are her 2 children, Brian and David.
Yeah.
What? It's going to be a shock to the system. But if I have an idea that mommy and daddy aren't together, daddy's, dating, whatever the case may be, he wants to get married again. And what that looks like, I would like to get married again. Okay, what does that mean? That means I'm going to meet different people. It's not just going to be, I'm not going to be with your mother and, things of that nature. I'm going to be with another person, right? So now, okay, I understand that mommy and daddy are not going to be together and daddy's meeting different people, things of that nature, because it can't be like boom, boom. Like I'm not gonna like her. I don't like her kids. They playing with my stuff. They touch. Why she here? I don't want to eat her nasty food. It's automatic. Like why wouldn't I have an attitude, right? Like, cause why is she here? Oh, she coming back? Like, and then you in love, and that could create, a disconnect between you and your partner, because now I have to coexist with your children who don't like me.
Yeah. So is there a difference between men and women when they need to have these conversations? So, some think, well, and we'll just put it out there. So say you have a mother is now dating another man, but that mother has a daughter.
Okay.
So to me, I think that needs to be spoken about or discussed a whole lot more than, and you can call this sexist or misogynist or whatever, because there's that chance of there's that chance of molestation or whatever. So
Sure.
Having another man in the house or around a girl, or, and unfortunately in today's society, some cases boys too. You get what I'm saying? So,
Yeah.
but I think it's less of a threat for a woman. But no.
Because the woman could be emotionally abusive, physically abusive, like hitting your child, not feeding your child. There's still some form of abuse that a woman could have on your child. Sexual abuse as well.
Yeah.
So, it's not just the man that could be sexually abusive. It could be the woman that could be sexually abusive too. This is another person that you're introducing to your child's life. So I think that on both fronts, the mother and the father, same conversation alike, because we need to understand on the other side, who is this person, and does the other person have a viewpoint or stance on what's expectations that I might not be looking at, right? So the father or the mother might say, oh no, they can discipline, because I love her, I love him. They wouldn't do anything to harm my child. They can discipline our children. And the other parent could be like, no, they can't. I've seen this, that you're not seeing because you're blissfully in love with this person.
Yeah. So I won't get on the subject of other parent approval. That's a whole nother conversation in itself.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother episode. But I will ask, what about child approval? How important is that? Can the child be ignored, or is it necessary? I'm from, hey, look, you just got to deal with it. I'm not going to make life decisions because a child
Based on your
does
children.
Yeah. No, it's cuz at some point, like you said, it could be a simple fact that nobody, I mean,
Yeah,
when
nobody. Yeah, they
when
won't like it.
after my parents got divorced, it didn't matter who you were.
I don't like you. Yeah.
You not my daddy.
Yeah. You can't tell me what to
Yeah,
do.
yeah. You need to go somewhere. I mean, and it was long. Like my stepfather, me and my brother gave that man hell
Yeah.
for no reason, other than
He was here.
yeah,
Yeah.
he was there. Now, I regret some of the things
Mm-hmm,
that we did to him or put him through.
Mm-hmm.
But now, me and him are really close.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we're both adults, and it's. Hey man,
can
you know,
see
yeah,
it a bit, yeah.
It's. I mean, what did you expect?
Yeah,
It's-
yeah.
So I'm asking. So at what point? So for that parent-child relationship, them trying to move on with someone else could drive a wedge between them if they don't approve of the new person. It is how much out of the way should a parent go to get that approval, or is it even necessary?
It's kind of dicey, right? Because, of course, everything is intimate to the relationship, right? But I think that communication and how you approach things, you run the risk of really tainting the relationship if there's no communication, and then the approach is this: here's this woman, you need to like her because I love her. What? No. But like if I'm open to even having conversations, do you like Sharon? No, I don't like Sharon. Okay, what's going on? Like I think that like just the open communication, and you can even end it with like, I understand you don't like her, but she's gonna be here for a while, or I love her and we might get married, or I love Bob and like, but like if it's just I don't care what you think, this my man. Okay, I don't like you, and you my mama, or you my daddy, or whatever the case may be. So I think that like communication can really just the ability for a child to have a conversation without admonishment, is that the word? Yeah. Or dismissal, or just validate your children's feelings about the situation. You don't have to bend to them all the time. Also, they could give you some intel about the person you're dating too, right? Like, was she fed her kids and didn't feed me? But if I'm like dismissing every step of the way, will I even feel comfortable to tell my parent what's going on? Because I just need to like it, or I just need to deal with it and move on. So how much can I talk to my parent about things that I see about their new partner? So I think that just the communication and validating, okay, I know you don't like Mr. John. I get that. I understand that. I love you, and I care about you, and I care about your feelings, and I care about what you like. And then you talk about like, this is I love him. I don't want to make a choice between. You have the conversation. But if the conversation is just cut off, attitude. Why wouldn't I have an attitude? I don't like this man, and then my dad doesn't want to talk to me about it.
Yeah. Is there a point in which you got to draw a line in the sand at some point? I mean, can it get to that point where they're just not getting along and you just have to end the relationship? Is that ever okay because of a child? Or are you, let's say that child is getting, like with me and my brother with our stepdad. When I say we gave that man hell,
okay,
especially we gave like, because especially me being the oldest, it was, nah, what you think this is? I'm the man of this house. Like, I wasn't a man. I was, a teenage boy, but you know how teenage boys are.
Yeah.
And so it's, nah, you're not, where you been?
Coming here.
Yeah. Like
you gonna run things.
Yeah. It's so, and we gave him unnecessary hell. Like, and I do mean hell. And so, but would it have been okay for ever point to be, this relationship ends because you can't get along with my children?
It depends on the person and their expectations of the relationship. Some people really want their children to get along with their new spouse. And if that's in an expectation, then that could be the result, right? Like, so my children are not getting along with you. And then you have to think about it. Is it that my children don't get along with anybody that I date, or wouldn't be open to me bringing someone around, or is it you? Because if it's you, then I need to let you go, because something is going on, right? Like, especially if I know my child isn't the type of child to just cause havoc and things of that nature, then it's you, and I don't know what's happening, but I need to let you go. Or is it that, because if it's just anybody, then you're not going to be with anybody, right? Like, you're not dating anybody, because your child will never like anybody. But I think that also to the extent, because also if my child isn't getting along with my new partner, then how is my partner approaching that? Because it's still my child and it's still a child. Mm-hmm. So if I'm dating somebody that's going to get to the level of a 10-year-old, I don't want to be with you. You know, like, that's an indicator. Why are you going back and forth with a 10-year-old?
Yeah.
You know, like, why aren't, you know, I could see my child not liking you, but what are you doing? You know, kind of thing. So I think that you can open the viewpoint of, like, getting along. Like, why aren't y'all getting along versus my child is not liking you? I can work on my child, but if you are going back and forth with the 10-year-old, no, we're not gonna do that kind of thing. Because why? Who goes back and forth with a 10-year-old? Not gonna do that, especially somebody who's not directly a parent.
Well, and part of the problem is these kids in today's society, they have a whole lot more power than when we grew up. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they're quick to claim things and make accusations, or, you know, press those buttons because they know they're protected. You know, like back in our day, if there is no going back and forth with a 10-year-old because somebody gonna get their face smacked. You know, whether it's gonna be my mom knocking me out or you know what I'm saying? But nowadays these kids, they talk crazy to their parent themselves. And so
but that goes into, like, but then also as the person dating, if I look at the relationship and I see that my new partner's child is going back and forth with them, what am I getting myself into? You going back and forth with your child, and then you have this relationship with your child's father. This is too much that I could not have to deal with.
Okay.
You know, so
I can see that. And last thing, I'll let that subject go. If the adult does decide, hey, your child, you know, I've been trying, but I'm not going to let you break this up. Excuse me. Would that child feel like the parent chose their new partner over them?
Sure, especially if you say that.
So again, did you see the movie Baby Boy? And remember Tyrese's character? And he was like, "You gonna choose Melvin over me?" You know,
Mama gotta have a life too.
Yeah, so showing our age, but anyway. So I mean, that you wind up in those situations. Is that healthy, or how do you healthily navigate that? Is taking her approach like, hey, mom's an adult, you like, hey,
well,
mom got.
You know, Jody was grown. Number one, Jody was grown with children, so Jody got to work on a whole bunch of things separately. Yeah. But like, here's the thing: we have to allow people to feel how they feel. We don't. Many humans, I'm not gonna say all humans, many humans and individuals don't walk around the world being mean and malicious. Right? So our approaches to things, our behaviors on things aren't with malicious intent in general. Not speaking for all humans, right? But like, we don't. And so, but what we do is we try to navigate around the potential of somebody else's feelings. So and so there are some things, it's kind of like we do consider other people's feelings, right? I'm not going to curse my friend out because that would hurt my friend. So I'm just not going to do that. Also, I'm not mean and malicious. But if I say something, and then it, as a result, ends up hurting my friend's feelings, that's something different, right? Like, I'm not gonna like navigate and like try to approach my life solely on, I don't want to affect this person, right? So we got to think about that. Like, having children, like, I know this will affect my child in some kind of way. Right. And so it's not to dismiss it to where it's like, they're going to feel some kind of way, essentially. Like, this isn't my dad. This isn't my mom.
Yeah.
You know, who are you kind of thing. And so, but it's again how you approach it, right? So you might approach it in the healthiest way and they still might not like it. You have to allow them not to like it, right? And that process can grow into them changing their mind or whatever the case may be, or kind of getting used to it and accepting it. But essentially, like if they have a problem, they have a problem, and we can work with them with that, and we can be open and communicate with them with that. But if they don't like it, they don't like it.
Yeah. Okay. So shifting focus a little bit, still on that wedge between adult and parent. Unfortunately, there are a lot of homes now where it's just the mother by themselves, and the father's not there, or the father is around, may not show up. There's also a lot of situations. So, in getting with that, how much of an effect is so? Let's say let's go with divorce first. Divorced. There's visitation schedule, and for whatever reason, dad can't make it. Which, if you think about it, it's kind of hard, especially if there are other situations going on. Could be. So I know personally in mine, child support is this. I've got to pay this, but I still got these bills, so I've got to go get this second job, or get so. Yeah, I got to miss picking up the kids because I need to go get this to pay the mortgage, or I just don't have enough money to feed the kids that weekend, or whatever. Whatever the excuse is, and I'm not gonna. I don't want to use the word excuse because some valid reason,
Right, sure.
whatever, whether it's a valid reason or excuse or some
The explanation of
yeah,
whatever is happening.
Yeah. How harmful is that to the child's psyche, missing those weekends?
It depends, I think, on the relationship of the parent and the child, and also what they know about it, right? So, like, again, understanding doesn't negate the feeling about that. Like, so somebody can understand, I understand daddy has to work. I'm sad that daddy has to work, but I understand he has to work because, you know, he's paying certain things. I'm still sad. You know, it sucks. I wanted to see my dad, but he's working, and he's working because of this. So how is it communicated? How is it approached? Is it just, I can't come get you because I got to work? Okay. And then what is the frequency of that? Because then that shapes how your child thinks about you. Dad's not going to come because he has to work. You know, and that's just a known thing. What's being done in between that? Is there a relationship? Is there connection in between to where I can understand what's happening? I can still be sad. I can still be upset, but I understand that this isn't like life.
All right. So now let me throw the flip side. Flip side is mom is not allowing child to go over there for like reasons you said. Hey, he's got this woman over here. I don't know this woman. I don't like this woman. Whatever. I'm not letting my child go over there. Like, let's say there is no court order in place, which is a lot of, you know what I'm saying? So you're at the mercy of the other parent. So, and that parent has decided for whatever reason, it could be because they're still mad about something or whatever. And it's, you're not, nope, this weekend's not going to work. So then how does that affect the child? Because a lot of times the child doesn't even know why.
Right.
So whose responsibility is it, if there is at all, to explain to the child, yeah, you're not seeing your dad this weekend because this?
Essentially, it would be on both the parents, right? But if one parent is toxic or whatever, no, you can't see your dad because whatever, he got that woman over there. Or I don't know, like whatever is being discussed, then the onus is on the other parent to communicate in a healthy way.
You have to get a little more specific.
Okay.
Communicating health. So you're saying, if let's say mom is, I don't like that woman. Yeah, you're not going over there. She's not going to be around my child. You're saying it's up to the dad to tell the child, hey, your mom is not allowed you to come over?
No, not necessarily in that, but it's more so like communicating. I know I want to see you. I can't see you now. Because you don't want to pin. You don't want to be like, well, it's your mama doing it. But it's, I really do want to see you. I think that I can work through something with your mom to where we can see each other. Like, how are you approaching it? Because also you're shaping your viewpoint to your child, not your viewpoint, but your relationship to your child. So if my mom is like, nah, your dad has that woman over there and yada, yada, yada. And then my dad, your mama not letting me see you because of that woman. I got this woman and she jealous, or however it's communicated. Then the child is just in the middle like, okay, well, my mom acting like this and then my dad acting like this, or whatever the case may be. You don't want to be the one to break the relationship with your child. So it's important for you to approach your child and make sure your relationship is good.
So, I mean, and now I'm going to get stuck in this, but it's when, so a lot of times there are adversarial, it's more so than not, it's adversarial. You very seldom hear, oh no, we're cool, we go, people hear that and it's like, oh, for real? Oh, that, that's good, that's a blessing. But a lot of times it is adversarial. So how do you explain to a kid when that kid is caught in the middle of that adversarial co-parent relationship? How do you explain that to them?
You could say, I think that it's like choosing your words. Essentially, it's different than talking to your friend, because you can talk to your friend and say, this thing over here, she doing this, she doing that. I can't believe she did that, and why she act like that, man? Man, she just want to fight with me. She toxic, and da 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 da. Right? Like, you can have that kind of raw conversation with your friend. Whereas with your child, it could be that, okay, things are difficult between me and your mom right now, but we're working on our communication. I'm going to work my best to communicate with your mom so that I can see you, or so that we can work through this and things of that nature, right? On the outside, it could be like, I don't want to talk to her ever again at all. And you can tell that to your friend, but you can't tell that to your child. If for your child, you're also teaching lessons on how to communicate, on how to show that, there is healthy communication, effective communication, and things of that nature, right? So like, I'm not going to say, your mama is difficult and she making it difficult for me, because I also don't want to taint how my child views their mom. That's for them to get an understanding, because they hear their mom talk. They hear their dad talk. I hear what grandma said, what my uncle said. Well, I hear all of these things, right? And so the other parent can play into that. So if I hear, oh, your mom is being difficult and da 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 da, and then I actually see my mom being difficult, that's how I can formulate that, right? Like, now I know, oh, my mom is difficult because I just saw her being difficult, versus me communicating, me seeing my dad not be difficult, me seeing my dad say, you know what, we're gonna work on this, and I want to see you, and I love you, and I care for you, and I'm gonna try to spend as much time as I can with you. I'm working on communicating that with your mom. I see my dad not being difficult, and I see my mom saying, your daddy ain't no good, and da 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 da. But then my dad is so loving and caring to me, and he talks to me, and he's this and he's that. Okay. Like, the older they get, the more they understand and comprehend. A child might not be able to. A child might say, oh, my daddy, da 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 da, if they're hearing it, but then they still have that connection to their other parent. They still can say, but my dad is like nice and he's caring and we do things. We might not go to, Six Flags all the time, but we watch movies and, we go outside. He taught me how to play basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing. It's like, we don't focus enough on us developing the relationship with our child, more so the back and forth with the other parent.
Yeah. That's a tough one. That's because, that's just
it's in theory. Like, I'm talking in theory. Like, it has to be implemented, right? Like, it has to be actually done, which can be very difficult. But it's not that it can't be done. It's just difficult to do.
And in that, when, like you said, show outwardly, hey, just kind of put your, hey, I'm not trying to fight with you, whatever. When that child becomes an adult, is there ever a good time to just be like, okay, look, this is what your mom was doing, or okay, this is what your dad was doing. when they become, or does it matter at that point?
It might matter to the child, maybe. I don't know. I don't know that because it's still talking about another parent.
Yeah.
So depending on that relationship with their parent, right? Like, so if you grow up and the other parent wasn't there, and the child has questions, you might be able to be very transparent and say, well, you know, like, your mom never called, your dad never called, you know, and that's why, you know, things of that nature. But I don't think that it would necessarily, maybe to some, be important. Now I have this 21-year-old child to say, your daddy cheated on me.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
okay, especially if my child still has a relationship with their father. Now that's gonna, like, because who wants to hear that the dad cheated on the mom or the mom cheated on the dad? Like, that's hard, that's hurtful. So now this person that I loved and cared about, I know hurt another person that I loved and cared about. You know, that's gonna affect them in some kind of way. So I guess it just depends on what happened. Like, you can say, we just couldn't get along, we just couldn't communicate. Sure, you can have that conversation, but depending on what it is, oh, your mom stole my 401k. No, you know, like, some things I don't necessarily think. I think it just depends on what the issue is, you know, like,
Yeah.
that it would just, you gotta make a judgment call.
So is it ever okay to share frustrations with the other parent with the child?
Depending on what the frustrations are and how you express frustration,
Okay.
right?
So let me give you an example. I've got 2 children. Kids are going to be kids. Trying to get kids out the house, dressed, ready to go on time, right?
Difficult.
So one of the things that their mother would do often is, hey, he shouldn't have them on before these type of events or whatever because they're late,
Okay.
right? But then it's the kids, let's go because you're going to make me late. And when I'm late, now I got to deal with this mess from your mama. Of course, you know, you don't say that, but you know what I'm saying? So is it ever okay would it be okay in that instance to sit down with the kids and be like, look, when you're late, daddy gets in trouble. Or it causes confrontation. You're just being slow and messing around, but you're causing a whole nother thing between me and your mom. You get what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying, but then that puts responsibility on them, which they do have some responsibility, right? Like, you need to, you know, get yourself together and we need to leave. But then it puts responsibility on them for y'all's conflict.
Okay.
And so then it's kind of like, oh, so daddy got in trouble because of me. And you don't want them to have a burden of, you know, that type of responsibility. So you could say, you know, like, it's a really big deal, you know, for us to make sure, you know, you get on time and things of that nature, because there are consequences when we're not, right? But you don't want to make it like, I get in trouble because of y'all. And I don't want to get in trouble. And I've been getting in trouble because
I don't want to deal with this mess.
I don't want to deal with this mess. And it's because of y'all that I'm dealing with this mess.
Yeah.
Like, that's a burden that they might not necessarily need to hold. But they need to know that there are consequences for not, you know, being on time, you know. And the consequences that we're late, y'all show up late and it's a disruption and, you know, things of that nature. But you don't want to say, I get in trouble from your mom because of y'all. You know, like, again, you're thinking about your relationship with your children. So you don't want to taint that.
Yeah, and so, I mean, the alternative, which is what I do, is look, we're not going to be late. And we're going to start having these changes and those changes because y'all ain't never on time. And so, but
the accountability
then
of time
also,
on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then that also, what dad's always mean, and dad, you know, wants us to do this, and has these extra rules that we don't have at mom's house. You get what I'm saying? So then it's, and that was going to go into my next question about children playing their parents against each other, because
They gonna do it.
Yeah, they gonna do it. So
They want what
How
they
do
want.
you? So how do you navigate that in an adversarial co-parent relationship? That you have kids that know y'all don't get along, and they're gonna use that to their advantage.
But if it works, why
Yeah.
would I stop
Yeah, I'm
doing
gonna shut
something
it.
that works?
Yeah. So, and that's what I'm saying. How do you shut that down, or how do you?
In what way does it work though? You have to see, like, so if they have the ability to pin stuff against, like, well, at mommy's house we get to stay up till 10.
Yeah.
And then you say, well, all right, since they do it over there, then I'll do it over here. It's working. At mommy's house we get pizza and
So
ice cream.
that's one. That's one. Or we get to eat dessert before dinner, and it's no, you don't get no dessert until you eating your dinner. And so now it's I'm gonna go back and tell mom that he's not. So I have had, and I've seen other kids who will. They get adversarial co-parent relationship, mom or dad, usually mom because they usually have the kids more. Hey, if you don't like something at your dad's house, don't do it. Or if you don't like that food, don't eat. And especially like you brought up, kids be like, oh, I don't know this woman. I don't like her nasty food. And hey, if you don't like, if his new woman, you don't like, don't eat it. So now you've got the parent yelling at the kid, you better eat your food. We don't waste food around here. And then the kid knows I can go back and say, well, dad's not feeding me, or dad's making me do this. You know what I'm saying? Dad's make stuff that you don't make me do. So now that's causing conflict between the other parent. Or, hey, the typical one, even when parents are together, mom will give me permission to do something dad won't. But like I said, that's compounded in the adversarial co-parent relationship.
Yeah.
So at what point do you draw that line? Now, I would tell you, I have just flat out, my kids know, don't ever try to play me against your mama. Like that's
Yeah. I mean,
me,
they need to
it's
know
gonna
that.
be, it's gonna be me and you.
Yeah.
You do that. Yeah.
Yeah, they need
No.
to know that. Like it doesn't, like they don't just get to skate and say, we get pizza, we get to stay up, we get to watch scary movies, all the things, because they're gonna do what works. So even if they say like, well, my mom said that I don't have to eat this food if I don't want to, and you're like, no, you need to eat the food, then again, it goes back to the relationship with your children, right? So like that's a conversation you have with your children. So what's going on with the food? Is it that you don't like it, or is that Miss Sharon cooked it? Oh, I don't like it because Miss Sharon cooked it, or whatever. Okay, so then I know what's going on, right? And then you can work and navigate that within your household. And you don't even necessarily have to bring it out and say, don't tell my children they don't get to eat, because that could be another issue. It's like, okay, what's going on with you and eating over here? Talk to them, ask them what's going on. Well, you know what? You cook peas. I hate peas. You don't have to eat the peas. I'll give you some green beans. We're good. So like I think because it's your household. This is your household structure.
Okay. And I think the last question, and then I'll close out and we'll have some more for another day. How do you identify if a child is not coping very well with a divorce or the adversarial co-parent relationship? Like, how do you identify that? Are they depressed, or and is it because of that? Are there signs to look for, and then what should you do if you start seeing those signs?
Yeah. So children kind of show things that they're not coping well or they're not doing well by acting out, especially if they're not an acting outer before, right? Like, so if they were good before and then you notice, okay, they're having, they're not wanting to go to bed, or they're not listening, or they're talking back, or they're yelling, or they're more tantrums, things of that nature. They act out more. They're not going to say, I'm not doing well because of the divorce, depending on how old they are. And depending on the relationship, if they have the ability to express that, they'll just essentially act out more. I don't want to do this. Why are you asking me to do this? I don't like this. They'll just kind of disagree more. They might really show signs of depression and sadness. They might isolate themselves. You might not hear them talk as much, things of that nature. When there's a disruption in their normal pattern, that's when you can kind of really identify, right? Because they might not always speak it out loud. So when you see that, talk to them. Ask them what's going on. How do you feel? right? Like get a sense of what they're feeling if they explain it. And ask them to identify, are you sad? Are you, or even get like a feelings chart. So don't even ask them certain feelings, just show them the chart and say, tell me which one of these you are. And then they can say disappointed, sad, confused, angry, blah, 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 blah. And then you get a sense, at least to know how to approach, because now you know how they're feeling.
Okay. Now, should you do occasional, like, mental health checks
Yes.
on your kids, even if they're not showing those signs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just check in with them. What's going on with you? How you been feeling? What are your thoughts? What do you think? Are you adapting well? Do you need something? Is there something that you feel like you're missing that I could help you with? Always do check-ins, even if y'all together.
Yeah.
Do a check-in,
Yeah.
But yeah, no, always just check in. Allow them to express what they're thinking, what they're feeling, what they like, what they don't like, what they need.
Okay. Yeah, I think I have further questions, but a lot of those we've talked about before would be a whole nother conversation in themselves.
Just in itself,
So
yeah.
So, but no, I thought that was a great discussion. Thank you so much again.
No problem.
For agreeing to give us that knowledge, from a
Absolutely.
professional standpoint.
Thank you for having me.
We will talk to you a lot more, but for the viewers, the next episode I want to start focusing. Now we focused on holding ourselves accountable for dealing with the feelings we have, or rejection, or whatever emotion or psychological block you might have to being okay with the new norm, not being together, or being a single parent, and fixing yourself. Then this episode we focused on identifying some of the things the kids deal with and what they have to go through and what's best to keep them on the straight and narrow. And so mental health of both yourself and your children, you need to hold yourselves accountable for that.
Absolutely.
Is there anything you want to add to that, or?
I just want to reiterate, making sure that you're just checking in with yourself and having full awareness of how you think, how you feel, and how you're approaching the situations, because, there's this idea of like happy children are a result of happy parents. Right? Like, so if I'm emotionally aware and I'm taking care of myself, I can show up to take care of my children.
Yeah. Okay. And so next episodes, I will be bringing in a family attorney, who kind of will walk us through, those first stages, knowing your rights, what's going to happen in court, what to expect. Because you said that was a big part of the acceptance for adults, is looking at knowing what's happening, what's going to happen. But I also want to bring you back for those conversations, because that's a real thing. How does someone deal with, the legal aspect, and how is that their psyche and their mental health going through that and navigating that? So unfortunately, the family court system is a real dirty game, and a lot of the individuals involved in it, some attorneys and a lot of the judges, they don't care about the actual mental health of the parent or the children. It's about getting as many cases through, the money, and so it is what it is. But again, before we start holding them accountable for their actions and start exposing some of the things that are going on in the family court system that are not proper and that go against what they claim to be their number one priority, which is the best interest of the children, which it's not in a lot of cases. But before we can start holding them accountable, we need to hold ourselves accountable. Absolutely. I want to thank you again for tuning into another episode of the Held Accountable podcast. And like I said last episode, whether you like or subscribe, that's not what I'm here for. My hope is that you share this conversation with someone, because they might learn something. You might learn something. I know for a fact that I learned that telling my kids that to stay out of grown folks' business whenever they ask what happened between their mother and myself is not the best idea. Also, if you live in the state of Texas and are interested in either in-person or telehealth therapy sessions, visit thegreencouchcounseling.com/contact us and use the promo code accountable365 for discounted rates. And remember that, yes, the system is broken, but in some ways, so are we. So we need to do everything we can to have a better co-parent relationship and a better relationship with our children, because one day we will all be held accountable.
Order in the court.